For the past 2 decades, suicide rates among 10 to 14-year-olds are the highest than any other time in history, making it the second leading cause of death for this age group. I'm Eric Clemens for Comcast Newsmakers at Vermont College of Fine Arts in Montpelier. Sweethearts and Heroes co-founder and superhero Tom Murphy is my guest. Tom, thanks so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you, Eric.
First things first, man. These numbers are alarming. The suicide rate has basically tripled for this age group. I guess the first question is why?
Eric, I'll tell you this. It makes no sense. In the most technologically advanced civilization planet Earth has ever known, we have suicide rates that are doubling and tripling in 10 to 14-year-olds. That makes no sense to humanity. We got to do something about it.
What's the basic reason? What are we not seeing here? Why are kids deciding enough is enough and they're taking their own lives?
Simple. We're at war, and that war is with this thing called hopelessness. When we look at the 22 service members that take their own lives every single day in this country, they do it for one reason: because they get to a state of hopelessness. I travel with a guy who laid on the ground, decided to die in Iraq, September 1st, 2006, and he looked up in the sky and he decided to give up on this thing called hope. And he goes around the schools with me and says, it's crazy to think that there's kids walking around our hallways that are in the same state of hopelessness. But it's hopelessness, man. If you look at Caitlin Nicole Davis, who, just after the first of the year, live streamed her own suicide. Right. I watched the whole thing, brother. And people say, why would you do something like that? Because we're at war. We're at war with this thing called hopelessness. It's not bullying, it's hopelessness.
Explain the name, if you would, for Sweethearts and Heroes.
Sweethearts and Heroes change the world, my friend, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to create young sweethearts and heroes, because at the end of the day, Eric, this is what it comes down to. Einstein figured this out well before we ever did. He said this world is a dangerous place to live, not because of evil people, but because of those who choose to do nothing about it. And our job, our goal, the magic trick that we've figured out is that we need more sweethearts and heroes in this world. It's not bullying. It's the absence of sweethearts and heroes. Sweethearts are people that carry and deliver hope to people that need it the most, and heroes are people that are willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. Like sit with that kid that smells. Like sit with that kid whose dad's in prison, whose mom's a junkie. You and I weren't taught how to do that, Eric.
Right.
But sweethearts and heroes are.
You've talked about it and you've said a couple of times during our conversation, it's not just bullying. What is your definition of bullying and your approach to ending bullying?
Sure. So the textbook definition, it's a blustering, quarrelsome, overbearing person who habitually intentionally badgers small and weaker people. There's 4 things that we educate kids on. Number 1 is being mean or scaring habitually. That's the key. The programming of the mind, of the thoughts, which turns into someone's reality. It's intimidating someone that's smaller or weaker, which could be anything, right? Your dad's in prison, you're an easy target. Your sexuality is different, easy target. Could be anything, could be your skin color, it doesn't matter. It could be that you're prettier than everyone else in school. That's what someone's using to make it, and it's an intentional act. Now, when we talk about how do we fix it, the reality is 96% of the time that behavior's gotten away with. But 85% of the time it happens in front of other people, which means every kid knows where it happens, when it happens, why it happens, and who it happens to. If you think back to when you were in middle school, you can still give me the name of that kid that wasn't treated the right way. You haven't even forgot his name. What did you do for him? Now, I don't mean the one act of kindness, but what did you do to change his state on a daily basis? What did you do? Not much, man. You were never taught that that was your responsibility.
Okay. Now, your co-founder, Jason, spends his time in what you call the lab.
Yeah.
Can you explain what the lab is, what goes on there, and why is the work of the lab so critical?
Well, it's amazing, man. Jason has a merit badge that no other human being should have. He wears one. He's lost 5 kids in his career teaching. Evan was a junior on his wrestling team. So he's cleaned out 3 lockers. No teacher, no human being should have to do that. And as we began the creation of Sweethearts and Heroes, and it wasn't born out of suicide, it wasn't born out of these destructive decisions, it was born out of the fact that Jason had a realization that we don't have enough sweethearts and heroes in our school. Kids that are willing to jump into action and to do something and change the state of another kid. Because it's not you and I, we're not the answer. Bullying, that kind of behavior has been around since the beginning of humanity. But what we need to do is we need to teach kids how to become the sweethearts and heroes. They need an action plan, and that's what we do. And the laboratory is any kind of educational environment. It doesn't matter if it's a locker room, it doesn't matter if it's the lunchroom, it doesn't matter where it is. But we're not teaching kids what matters the most. We think it's about teaching content, but it's not.
Now explain for us what it means to jump into action, because now we're talking about some solutions here, because I'm sure people out there want to know, well, what can I do?